as that storm is now reportedly moving east at about 35 miles per hour. We'll take a look at a little of the movement as it's been crossing Highway 150, heading toward the Center Point and Walker area. As it moves off to the east at 35 miles per hour, certainly some hail, some heavy rain, as well as now that potential for a tornado in that storm as well. We're going to storm track it for you, and this again takes it out at 35 miles an hour, almost due east, and we'll kind of track the back edge of that storm where the rotation will likely be. And that would take it through Center Point about 5:02, Alice about 5:12, Paris Access about 5:27, Central City around 5:33 as that storm again continues movement to the east at about 35 miles per hour. In addition, we have a severe thunderstorm warning that includes the city of Vinton, or Independence rather. Vinton, you're included in the tornado warning. Then farther back off to the west, just issued as well a flash flood warning in effect for portions of Black Hawk County, a large section of Black Hawk County, and portions of Grundy as well as far northern Tama County for some heavy rains as this line kind of evolves and comes together and moves across portions of eastern Iowa. Meteorologist Corey Thompson joins us right now. And Corey, you've been taking a look at the inside of the storm. What are you seeing as far as any rotation or tornado possible in this storm?
We're getting things together here. There is an area, I want to see exactly where that report was.
Near Lime City Park, I believe.
Okay, it's near Benton County Fairgrounds, so an extended area. There are a couple of areas of rotation, which we'll show you here in just a moment as things are getting pulled up here on Max 2, but give me a second.
Let's pop back to Max 1 real quick while Corey gets that ready to go. Again, just kind of give you an indication that tornado warning, as we said, in effect now for portions of Benton County, far northern areas of Lynn County, as well as areas of southern Buchanan County. Does not include the city of Independence, does not include the city of Cedar Rapids, does include Center Point, does include the city of Walker. If you are in these areas, you need to be in a safe area as those storms continue to move through. The main threat really will come from that line as well that's going to continue to come together. And the more that line comes together, the better chance we have for some damaging wind threat. We're expecting that some of the storms, as they evolve and develop eventually along that line, could produce 80 to 80 plus mile an hour gusts. So that certainly is damaging wind in a very quick period of time. And we have seen warnings along that line throughout our 4 o'clock newscast, and now that does continue with that public observed tornado in the area that the tornado warning is in effect. We'll pinpoint that area for you once again, and you see that does extend north of Cedar Rapids. So again, Cedar Rapids not included in the tornado warning. I would expect everyone eventually to see some type of warning as those storms evolve and move through. It does include Center Point, Central City, Walker, Rowley, and Vinton, movement off toward the east. We're going to just pause the movement for you and just kind of take the kind of the front edge of this storm itself and just kind of see how that will evolve and move. Let's get rid of that. Let's add in the storm movement at 35. And if we pick the front edge of that and move it out across areas into Troy Mills, that puts it there about 456, Alburnett at 503, Rogers at 505, Coggin at 509, Central City at 510, Ryan at 514, Wabeek at 517, and Prairieburg about 519. In addition now, the southern portion of that same area of storms, now a severe thunderstorm warning has been issued. So this will include the Eastern Iowa Airport, it'll include the city of Ely, it'll include Cedar Rapids, all the way to Bertram, up toward Robbins, Atkins, Van Horn, you're all included in this, as well as Newhall and Keystone. That's for the storms that are moving off from the west and heading east. With these, expect 70-mile-an-hour winds as those storms move in. The possibility would be there as well for some hail up to about 1 inch in diameter, and cannot rule out that isolated chance that we could see a tornado as well. Severe thunderstorms sometimes produce tornadoes with little or no advance warning, so certainly you want to be in your safe area as those storms continue to push across portions of eastern Iowa, and particularly right now, southern areas of Lynn County under that severe thunderstorm warning. That'll last until 6. Far northern areas of Lynn County, Center Point, back toward Vinton, over to Walker, as well as southern areas of Buchanan County. That's a tornado warning that's in effect. And farther north of that, which would include the city of Independence, the city of Lamont, moving through Jessup as well. That's a severe thunderstorm warning that also continues there, again, until 5:30.
If we could take a look at Max 2 now, we've got the velocity view here. The National Weather Service did say that there was a public report of a tornado. Unfortunately, they didn't particularly indicate exactly where this took place within the storm. There is a couple of areas of rotation. There are, rather, one that's in southern Buchanan County, east of Brandon. So that's near that Lime Creek County Park area, which I had to familiarize myself with. And then another area of rotation near the Vinton area. Now, this storm itself has been rotating broadly basically the entire time that it's been around. That's why we've had that threat for hail, as well as some threat for damaging wind. But it's these two areas that we'd want to be pretty cautious about with the threat for some of those storms to produce rotation. Again, that public report of a tornado, hoping for additional information from the National Weather Service here within a few moments, but it's all tracking to the east, as Joe said. 50 miles an hour. So they've started to pick up. That is the change that we've seen. We've seen a lot of complex interaction with these storms over the last little while, and that has led to little areas of rotation developing. And so if you live southwest of Urbana between Vinton and Center Point, that's one area that we are concerned with for the potential for tornadic development. Another, again, southern Buchanan County, just across the line from Benton and Lynn counties and spreading to the east. So it's those two spots. It turns out from the Weather Service that there was the report of at least a small tornado near Brandon. So it's that northern area they were most concerned about first, but no new reports. It looks like it was short-lived, at least at this point. So it's this area right up here that we're initially worried about. That's where the warning was issued for, at least at first.
And again, that warning does extend farther to the south. Certainly not out of the question to see some very strong winds with this storm as well, probably 70 plus in some of the storms that are moving through. I wonder if we can take our Independence City cam, bring it up and point it toward the north and really take a look at what we're seeing up there as well, because it certainly looks like some pretty intense storms in the northern portion of Buchanan County. We'll go ahead and move Independence, and we'll take a look at it when we get that moved. But you do notice this line of storms that we outlined and talked about yesterday and continue to follow this morning, as Corey outlined for you. It's once that comes together or congeals together in this line, that's when we could see the strongest of the winds develop. And there is a severe thunderstorm watch in effect until 11 o'clock across the entire TV9 viewing area, all of eastern Iowa. In fact, that some of these winds could be 85 miles an hour plus. You want to take shelter for as these storms continue to move into your area. Get to that safe place, which of course the lowest level you can get to safely. Cover yourself with blankets or pillows, put on the bike helmet, and make sure you once again are safe as those storms move through. Being in the safest place possible is the way for you to do that. In addition to the wind, hail, and isolated tornado report that we've had, some heavy rains are falling out of some of the storms as well. Two blue boxes that you're seeing right now, one just out of the TV9 viewing area. The second one, as we see areas of Buchanan County, northern areas of Tama County, Blackhawk County, back through Grundy County, northern areas of Benton County as well. We do have a flash flood warning in effect, so certainly some low-lying areas could certainly see some of that ponding on the roadways and things like that as we continue to watch that storm system move through and right now kind of redevelop over that same area. And as we've talked, an additional severe thunderstorm warning has just been issued. This will be just outside the TV9 viewing area, but it shows that this entire line is starting to exhibit severe characteristics. This is now a 60-mile-an-hour wind possible in areas of Marshall County, farther back off toward the west in Jasper County, goes all the way back to Polk up to Story County as well. That activity is, again, hail about an inch and 60-mile-an-hour winds. That's kind of where they're starting, and as that comes together and moves into a very rich and unstable atmosphere, we just showed you that during our main weathercast on TV9. The amount of energy that these storms have to work with is super huge. In fact, take a look right now. We do have dew points in your 80 degrees, temperatures that, if they're not rain cooled right now, are in the mid to upper 80s and low 90s. Again, certainly plenty of energy for these storms to work with, and with a cold front moving in farther back off toward the west, aiding in the development of some of the storms. It'll continue as we head through the evening hours. There you see our Independence City cam looking off toward the north and west on our Independence City cam, as we can see as those storms continue to move through. We'll be giving you a little City Cam tour on Max 2 to take a look at some of those, probably look at the Cedar Rapids City Cam next to, again, just kind of give you an indication. And again, our eyes out there to watch as these storms continue to push across portions of eastern Iowa.
If we look at Max 2, to sort of hammer home the point that Joe was just making about the storm energy, we're near the top of the chart that we have here.
Wow.
In terms of how much there is. And you can feel it when you step outside. Joe showed at the top of the 4 o'clock an 111 heat index in Cedar Rapids. That was because the dew point legitimately was 81 degrees, which is pretty rare around here. We see it maybe a couple times this summer, but it's certainly on the higher end. But notice how quickly that line drops off. It's this round of storms, and then we're done. Even as we head toward tomorrow afternoon, just a small uptick, and maybe that could develop a scattered shower or two. But the severe weather threat is with this one round, and then we move on from there. Take a look at the velocity within the storm again. Bear with me as we recenter here on the storms that we have in place. It's this area, eastern Benton County, northern Lynn County, that we've seen the threat. I'm going to pan here and pinpoint a little bit more. A couple of areas that I would point out at this point. The one that is just east of Vinton, moving toward the Center Point area. And then something to keep an eye on. I'm going to pop the storms, the tornado warning back on here. It's this area that's just south of Shellsburg. There was a report from the emergency managers there that they had seen a little bit of rotation in the clouds near that area. And so there's no warning down that way, but something to keep an eye on as these storms continue to press to the east. Just a severe thunderstorm warning in effect for that southern area of rotation, potentially developing, at least in some spots. Just of note, the tornado warning now has been stepped down to being radar indicated. There haven't been recent reports of tornadic activity, but there was that one brief report east of Brandon. So we at least know that these storms are capable, as long as they stay individualized like they kind of are right now, out ahead of what is developing into that line of storms we were expecting. We still have that chance for some of these storms to rotate. Also have had some reports of hail, 1 to 1.5 inch size hail in a few spots. So these storms at this point still have that capability too. That's really owing to the amount of energy in the atmosphere. It's just tons to work with.
And not unexpected. You felt it this weekend. It was kind of building, and anytime you go from temperatures in the lower 90s, dew points now near 80 degrees in many spots, to what we'll see as we head through the mid part of the week, especially by Wednesday, something has to change that.
For sure.
And that's what's happening right now.
Yep, we're getting that interaction with a cold front. They're supported the upper levels of the atmosphere to cause all these storms to blossom right when we hit peak heating, as they tend to do. And it's just kind of all coming together at the right time in the right place. Now, hopefully we can avoid a lot of damage reports. We have to wait and see how this kind of evolves and congeals. There may be some tendency that this storm system will mature a little bit more toward Illinois and Wisconsin more than in Indiana, more than here in eastern Iowa. That's something to watch, and that's why we're here, at least for the time being. Of course, we'll be here all evening, too.
Absolutely. We continue to watch it. Meteorologist Hannah Messier is here. Our weather intern Jack's here as well, all taking a look. And Hannah, I'm going to ask you when you get a chance to take a look at any storm reports we might have had that have come in from the National Weather Service, or any reports of any hail reports. Just let me know when you've got something, and then we can check on those as well, because we have had certainly some warnings since about just before 4 o'clock. Our first warnings came out, and then those warnings have continued from time to time as this line slowly starts to come together. The warnings that currently are in effect, and again, as this system moves through, I certainly would not advise going out in this system. We have the tornado warning in effect still, as we can see, for portions of Lynn, as well as far southern areas of Buchanan and the far northeastern areas of Benton County, mostly out of Benton County at this time. And then we have a severe thunderstorm warning that continues for southern Lynn County. That would include Van Horn. That does include Cedar Rapids, and we're starting to see some of that weather start to move through the Cedar Rapids area as well. I wonder if we can put our Cedar Rapids City Cam up in the lower left-hand corner of the lower right-hand corner of the screen as well. Take a look at what it looks like in Cedar Rapids. There you go. You can see kind of the darkening of the skies as those storm approach. And in addition, the other severe thunderstorm warning that's in effect covers Independence. It's not to Manchester yet, but if we look off to the west in Manchester, certainly you'd be seeing some very dark clouds moving in with some potential for heavy rain, some strong winds, and at times some hail. Some of the hail reports have kind of calmed down a little bit as far as what what we were seeing earlier. There was some reports that we could see greater than 2-inch hail in some of the storms, which again would be extremely damaging. Winds as this storm evolves and develops, as we've been talking about, could be 80+ miles an hour eventually. And again, we can see that line just continuing to slowly kind of congeal and come together. That cell that was out ahead of that line, which is moving through northern Lynn, most of Benton County right now, continues to press off toward the east and kind of almost is going to get absorbed into that first line as well. And that will once again allow those storms to, as Corey mentioned, interact with each other. And as those storms come together, you can still get that rotation on the front edge of the storms. But what we're also watching is that potential, as they do move in, for some very, very strong winds as those storms move in as well. So certainly something that we're going to follow. We're going to keep with you and watch these storms and cells as they push across portions of eastern Iowa, not to mention that heavy rain threat as well. We'll take a look at a few rainfall estimates coming up in just a little while.
A couple of things to look at on Max 2 in terms of where the winds are in this storm. We have a couple of areas that may be developing into some stronger winds, even outside of any potential tornadic rotation. Highlight them here for you. It's the area near Van Horn where there have been some stronger returns on radar that I'll circle here. This bright blue color represents winds that would potentially be severe, as well as an area that is very near Shellsburg. I have to wait and see. Obviously, we just had some looks from the Shellsburg emergency managers, so they're out and spotting, but it's this area that's kind of showing a little bit of a forward punch a little bit to that back edge of the storm that could be producing some stronger winds. Now, in and among all of this, we're still keeping an eye on the potential for rotation. A couple of areas that we could be seeing it would be just north of that area of wind that's coming down, as well as another spot that to watch would be just southwest of Shellsburg at this point. I'm going to take off the warnings just to give you a little bit of an idea there, where we're seeing kind of a very vague hook shape to the storm starting to form a little bit. Just a little bit. Again, we have a couple of cells that are kind of really close to one another, and so it's difficult to pick out individual parts of the storm necessarily as they move and interact with one another. But it's those two spots that would be most concerned about. A little bit of a lesser concern northwest of Center Point, but based on what we've seen so far tonight, I would keep an eye on all of those spots, and all of them except for the very southern end. Even that's on the edge of the tornado warning, all of them included. You should be in your safe spot as it is.
So we're going to go ahead and kind of storm track those areas that Corey has kind of pinpointed along that line, and they've been reportedly moving up to at times 50 miles an hour. So let's pick the one just south of the Center Point area and kind of project it out. Let's go out for about the next 20 minutes. That would put it in Lafayette at 5:15, Rogers at 5:22, Jordan's Grove at 5:26, Wabeek at about 5:28. Farther to the south, that Shellsburg area that Corey was mentioning, again, out for about the next 20 minutes. That under a severe thunderstorm warning, putting it in Palo about 5:15, Lynn Junction about 5:19, Hiawatha right around 5:21. Kenwood Park at 5:23, Cedar Rapids right around 5:24, the Linn-Mar Stadium about 5:26, Marion at 5:27. So again, kind of watch that as it does continue to move off toward the east. Anywhere from about 35 to as much as 50 miles an hour as those storms continue to evolve and move. Let's take a wide view right now of the pinpoint Doppler radar and show you the entire line of storms. And it has evolved since the afternoon hours, developed just off near the Fort Dodge and Carroll area and continued to push off toward the east, starting out at about 20, 25 miles an hour, starting to pick up right now as that line starts to form and come together. As it does, we are expecting additional high wind reports or possibility, and it is again possible that some of the storms, as that line matures, as Corey mentioned a little earlier, we could see 80 to 85 plus mile an hour winds as those storms move through, which certainly again are very, very damaging. This whole complex of storms will continue to push down toward the east and southeast. Let's take a look at Pinpoint Futurecast and kind of show you what the storms would evolve and move like. According to one of our models, you can certainly see that line coming together. together. As we work toward the 5 and 6 o'clock hour, that line then continues to push down toward the south and east. And by 7, 8 o'clock, it's moving again through the Washington, Mount Pleasant, Dubuque area, and then continue to push farther toward the east. By about 9 or 10 o'clock, it's out of the TV9 viewing area. So again, if that movement picks up as expected, some of the strongest could be across southeastern Iowa into areas of Illinois. We'll continue to watch that, and then it's a much quieter weather trend as that storm continues to push off again toward the east. We certainly do have that severe thunderstorm watch in effect. Severe thunderstorm watch in effect once again for the entire TV9 viewing area. That was issued earlier this afternoon. Threats do include that isolated tornado threat, but again, the main threats, Corey outlined it great this morning with the damaging wind threat with these storms. 80-plus mile-an-hour winds certainly possible, as well as some large hail possible in some of those storms as well. So certainly keep that in mind. Hannah's efforting some reports, if we have any from the National Weather Service, to see exactly what type of reports we've seen. And there have been some scattered reports right now, but from our newsroom, thankfully no reports of damage at this time.
Of some wind gusts. So in Waterloo, we've got 51-mile-per-hour wind gusts recorded, 55-mile-per-hour wind gusts recorded in Olwine. The National Weather Service is also highlighting that they're seeing flooding, so flash flooding being noticed in Hardin County, in the Iowa Falls area and west. We're also seeing flash flooding potentially in far northeastern Tama County and far south central Blackhawk County, and in the city zone, so in the city of Waterloo and the Cedar Falls, that urban area, we're seeing the potential for flooding. Also, we're seeing some high wind gusts in central Iowa still, and some videos online are suggesting some minor rotations up in cloud cover, Joe.
In addition, we have some reports of some hail up to 1 1/4 inch or so. That in the Voorhees area. LaPorte City also reporting about a 1-inch hail. Also have reports of 1-inch hail in the Dysart area, and near Buckingham as well, some 2-inch hail. That's near the Traer area as well. So again, lots of storm reports coming in. Thankfully, though, as reported again, no damage to report at this time. But again, this line is really just coming together, and the energy within this line, certainly plenty to work with yet, as Corey outlined just a bit earlier. Plenty of energy yet the next several hours for this line to strengthen and, again, produce those very strong and damaging winds.
We just got another report from the Benton County Emergency Management that says Mount Auburn now reports 70-plus mile-per-hour wind, and the Mount Auburn sirens have been activated.
And that's in that second line.
Yeah, which is a good point, because the sirens will be activated in many communities, not tornadic just, but 70-mile-an-hour winds or greater, they will activate the sirens as well. So if you hear them in your community, certainly that's a situational awareness for you. But what you need to be with this line moving through, I would say if you are in the path of this line, definitely be in your safe place, and we'll run down some of those safe places in just a second.
We go ahead and take a look at Max 2 as storms continue to move through the tornado warning area. I would say the area east of Shellsburg, west of Alburnett, about to cross Interstate 380, as they track to the east. It's this area that has the strongest rotation potentially. Just got a new update from the National Weather Service. See what they have to say about it. They shrunk that box a little bit, so it's much less of Benton County, still including the portions of Lynn County that it did before. Still radar indicated rotation, and they're saying between about Troy Mills and Shellsburg. So it does extend a little bit farther north in terms of areas they're concerned about, but they're also warning this potentially for damaging winds too. They're kind of covering both of those bases within that same warning. This storm still rotation relatively broad in that area that I have highlighted there, east of Shellsburg, but that is where some of that wind that's coming out and across could be meeting some of that wind that's coming up and around. And so that could force the rotation to be a little stronger over the next little while. At this point, again, just not a very clear signal there. But the important thing to note is that if there is an area of rotation that happens to take place where you are, it's going to be hard to see it in a lot of cases today, partially because we have so much humidity in the air. It's really kind of reducing visibility even without fog. It's just so humid, it's hazy. The other thing to watch out for is very, very heavy rain. And that area of rotation that was highlighted there is embedded within heavier rainfall, and so you would not be able to see it coming necessarily as that storm approached.
So that's why you want to take the warning seriously, you want to heed the warnings, and you want to get to a safe area. So I would say as these storms move through, whether it is a tornado warning or a severe thunderstorm warning for tonight, let's head to our safe place. Best place to be, of course, is the lowest level of your home. Where you want to be is under something sturdy. Get under a bench, a heavy table, maybe a heavy desk that you have. Grab your bike helmet, put it on, and cover yourself with blankets, pillows, or towels. You hear this say this all the time, but these are the safe ways for you to stay the safest. Why do you avoid windows? Because things that blow around in some of these storms can shatter windows very quickly. Doors, if you're upstairs on a second floor or a first floor, some of those, if they're not on outside walls, can open and shut very quickly as well, just with the wind changes that are moving around. Of course, outside walls, most dangerous. Put as many walls between yourself and the storm. If you have no basement available, a small interior room away from windows, of course, is the best place to be. So kind of keep those in mind as far as your safety as those storms continue to push across the area. Once again, a reminder, we do have that severe thunderstorm watch in effect across all of eastern Iowa, does extend to southwest Wisconsin, a good share of western Illinois, and a little farther back off toward the west as well into northern areas of Missouri and central areas of Iowa. That's a severe thunderstorm watch until 11 o'clock. 80-plus mile-an-hour winds, the main or primary threat. The isolated chance yet, but as that storm comes more into a line, it's going to be the damaging wind threat that is really going to take prominence. And we have seen a couple of hail reports, as we mentioned, the largest near the Traer area with a 2-inch hail report a little bit earlier as those storms continue to evolve and move toward the east and southeast. They have picked up a bit. I know the last check on some of the storm movement has been close to 50 miles an hour on some of the storms. Let's take a look at the storms and the latest warning that came in that's just outside the TV9 viewing area on the Marshall County area and see how fast those are moving. Latest estimate on those, about 45 miles an hour. So if you take that entire line and say it is moving approximately 45 miles per hour, we can do a little bit of a storm track on that line for you as well. Again, this does not take into account what we're going to storm track, the storm that's moving north of Cedar Rapids that had that potential tornado in it earlier. But we'll just kind of track this out a little bit on the front edge of this line as it moves east and southeast. And let's just go out, let's say, for the next 30 minutes or so and just see kind of what communities may see that. Could move into the Marshalltown area very quickly at 5:22. Delaware at 5:25, Earlville at 5:28, Walker at 5:32, Urbana at 5:35, Dyersville about 5:37, Dysart at 5:42. Gilman at about 5:47, Center Point at 5:52, and Tama at 5:53. Again, that's the main line that's developing, that's moving off, that could contain the very, very strong and powerful winds as that movement continues. And we estimate, again, along the entire line, about a 45-mile-an-hour movement along that line. As far as anything we've been seeing from our city cams, we're going to put one of them in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen again, kind of take a look and kind of keep you informed. That's the Cedar Rapids City Cam atop Mount Mercy University. You certainly see the lightning on the right side of your picture. Again, kind of an intense cell that's likely producing some heavy rain in spots. Moving into the Cedar Rapids area, I'd be curious if we can take a look at what the Manchester City Cam looks like, pointing a little bit off toward the west. I would assume some pretty dark skies as well. The potential is there for some heavy rain. Manchester, you're not officially under any warning of any sort. However, it certainly is going to be moving into your area, and heavy rain would be a threat. And as we've talked about, we now have a large severe thunderstorm warning in effect. Let's go ahead and kind of run that down for you. This is in effect, as we can see, for a large portion of Buchanan, Delaware, Jones, Lynn, as well as Cedar, far northern Johnson County, as well as areas of Dubuque County. What this warning is for 70-mile-an-hour winds. And again, we've been talking about this line moving through, and as that line evolves and develops, that's where we're seeing the strongest of the cells with that potential for some strong winds. What the Weather Service has done, warning ahead of time that those storms will be moving in. We just gave you some ETA on those storms with our storm tracker, but again, that entire area right now doesn't officially include the city of Dubuque yet. Does include Manchester. It includes Independence. It includes Cedar Rapids. It includes Monticello. It includes Anamosa. It's back toward Van Horn as well. That is now in effect for Vinton as well as Independence. That's in effect until 6:30. So that takes you for the next hour and 9 minutes or so. That warning is in effect, again, well ahead of when those storms will be moving in. And that's just what is expected as these storms move in, to give you plenty of warning to say, hey, take these seriously, get to your safe place. There's going to be some high winds as these storms move through, and likely the storms strengthening as they move into that area. So again, if you're in those areas, you want to be looking for that safe place and be ready to go to that safe place immediately. Those storms are already moving into the Manchester area right now, as well as the Independence area. Have not yet moved into areas of Dubuque County, but will, and they'll be moving farther back across Lynn County as well, with a second round of storms that'll be pushing across the area.
Max 2 is a good source for our velocity view at this point. I've got a couple of features to identify here. The potential rotation, that tornado warning continues for another 8 minutes here for portions of Lynn and as well as Benton County. It does look like we have a brand new one. That's for a larger area, Joe.
All right, let's go ahead and take a look at that tornado warning that has now been issued. So this is going to go back and cover the tornado warning that's in effect. So we'll try to pinpoint where that warning is in effect. It's the red box.
And a spotter was located, a tornado on the ground 3 miles west of Urbana. So this is confirmed, and spotters have seen the tornado on the ground 3 miles west of Urbana.
Okay, so that takes us through southern areas of Buchanan County, the far southeastern corner, or southwestern corner, rather, of Dubuque County, through northern areas of Lynn County, as well as back across northern areas of Benton County. Again, this is for an observed tornado moving to the east at 45 miles per hour, a confirmed tornado near Vinton moving east at about 40 miles per hour as confirmed by spotters. We want to thank KHawk and KRNA and KDAT for taking our coverage. We appreciate our radio stations taking our coverage as well. We welcome our listeners on KHawk, KDAT as well, for listening in and getting our severe weather coverage. We appreciate that. As you can tell, that warning is a large warning. It's until 6 p.m., so that's the next 36 minutes. It does not include the city of Cedar Rapids. I want to stress that. Robbins, Alburnett, Central City out ahead of it, Coggin, Walker, Center Point, and then back toward Mount Auburn, as well as in the Brandon area. Those are the areas that right now are seeing that threat from the severe weather. The movement, let's see what the movement is on these storms as they continue to push through with the tornado warned area. They are moving off to the east-southeast. They're reported about 25 miles per hour. So again, there's some various movement in these storms themselves. These now reported moving about 25 miles an hour. Heavy rain would certainly be a threat as well as those storms move through. So that's the severe thunderstorm warning. The tornado warning area moving at about 40 miles per hour. And again, weather spotters confirm a tornado located near the Vinton area moving off toward the east.
And it's just like meteorologist Hannah Messier described. It's the area of rotation between Mount Auburn and Urbana, where that tornado report would have been located. It's right at the leading edge of the now developing line of storms that's pushing in, and the sort of lead storm that had that first tornado warning, as well as that hail threat and wind threat across portions of Lynn and Benton County. So it's the second portion highlighted on your screen there. New scan from the radar, which would place that potential rotation just a little bit closer to the Urbana area. Urbana, you don't have a lot of time to find your safe shelter, so it's a good time to get there at this point as well. Another spot to watch is going to be down here on Interstate 380, just east of Shellsburg, and I'm actually going to pan and try to give a better picture of what's happening there. I mean, north of the Robbins area on the lead edge of, again, the rotation that we've seen in that storm, that area is still under a tornado warning for a few more minutes. We'll have to see. That is included in the new tornado warning too, excuse me. It's right near the Toddville area. So if you live in either of these areas and points to the east and southeast, you do need to be heading for safe shelter as soon as possible because that rotation is there. And with those occasional reports of some tornadic activity, something to watch out for too. Now, to the south of that, another thing to point out here on radar, some stronger winds starting to take shape on the northern side of the Cedar Rapids metro as well. It's this whole area that, again, has been generally surging outward a little bit over the last little while. That is moving to the east and southeast. So if you live anywhere in the northern half of the Cedar Rapids metro, let's say, from north to south, kind of think of it that way, that is where wind gusts could be especially strong in the coming moments. So even if you're outside of the tornado warning box, the threat for damaging winds exists with these storms as they continue off to the east. So a couple of threats to watch, especially if you live in the Linn County area, as things continue to evolve in the next little while. Again, those two areas of rotation, one near Urbana, one near Tauntville, all moving to the east.
I wonder if we can put the Hiawatha City Cam in the lower portion of the picture, and it points out what Corey was talking about. If there is a tornado in this area, it is going to be very, very difficult to see. Look at the heavy rain. That's Interstate 380 north and south as it nears the Boyson Road exit. Or we look from our Hiawatha City Cam. Many times we can see well beyond that. As you can see, the visibilities are greatly reduced. That's why you need to be in your safe place. Corey mentioned Urbana earlier, about 5:32. The Blue Creek natural area, that storm or the rotating part of the storm, comes in at 5:37. Center Point at 5:40. Alice at 5:46. Dix Road access at 5:51. Alburnett at 5:53. Rogers about 5:55. The Miller Preserve about 5:58. And Coggin, expect that at about 5:59. That, again, that area that was warned with that tornado warning that is in effect and continues until 6 o'clock. We'll continue to watch this as it evolves, but you can see the Hiawatha City Cam there showing some very, very intense and heavy rain. I wonder if we can take a look in that same box at our Cedar Rapids, Mount Mercy University City Cam and point that off toward the north as well and kind of take a look at what we're seeing in the Cedar Rapids area as the storm continues to evolve and move in. Again, some of the darkening of the skies. If we pan that off to the right a little bit, we do run into some, but you can go ahead and pan it through. Let's just go ahead and take a look at what we can see past the antennas that are up on the roof and things like that. Nothing incredibly discernible right now, but you can see that certainly some darkening of the skies off to the north and west as that system continues to push across the area. Again, moving anywhere around, I'm going to say an average of about 45 miles an hour. That just seems to be kind of the average as those storms continue to push through. I do want to remind you of your safety rules and where you need to go when these storms are moving through with that confirmed tornado across portions near the Urbana area. Lowest level of your home, under something sturdy. Grab your bike helmet. Cover yourself with blankets or pillows. Avoid windows, doors, and outside walls. If no basement, get to a small interior room. Those are the safest places to be. When you go to those areas, how can you connect with us? People often ask that. Well, you can do that in many ways. We always stress having the First Alert Weather app downloaded and ready to go. Indeed, that's the case. Make sure that you are, once again, have the app. You can find our streaming coverage there. KCRG.com also provides our streaming coverage. In addition, First Alert Plus has our streaming coverage as well. Social media right now, of course, a place you can find that coverage, but again, don't rely on social media for your reports. Live streaming on all the platforms, including YouTube and our radio partners, as we mentioned, K-Hawk right now, as well as KRNA and KDAT taking that coverage, KXEL many times as well. We'll grab onto that coverage. The latest warning in effect that was just issued is just outside the TV9 viewing area, but it goes to illustrate this line that continues to develop and evolve. And along that entire line, just about, we have warnings. And I would expect those warnings to continue as we move through the next couple of hours, as that storm continues to push across the area. It's moving mainly east and southeast and developing down toward the southwest. So we'll watch that move through. Iowa County right now, you've been virtually untouched. Johnson County, back Keokuk and Washington County. Be watching particularly the farther south we go for the stronger of the winds that could be moving in. As Corey mentioned, showing some of those strong winds beginning to move through the Cedar Rapids area at this time as well.
One thing to watch out for next to the area of rotation near Tauntville, I would say, is a little bit stronger than it was a little bit ago, or at least somewhat better organized, showing a little bit of depth at a couple of levels up into the cloud. A broader area of rotation does encompass the area near Robbins. You can see a little bit of red and green coming together. That could be some rotation there too. But if you're along County Home Road, that would be an area to certainly watch out for some of that rotation that, again, has shown some intensity, crossing Interstate 380 near that area, and then moving along and likely just very close to the County Home Road area over the next little while. The storm progressing to the east. What was the latest read on that, Joe?
About 40.
Okay, so If you live in between Robbins and Alburnett, an area where you would likely want to be in safe shelter. Again, this is within an area of very heavy rain, and so it's going to be very difficult to see the rotation, if you could at all, as it approaches due to that. So you don't want to wait until you get confirmation with your eyes. We've had confirmation of other tornadoes spinning up in parts of those areas to the northwest. Again, a couple of areas that I want to highlight here one more time. Just east of Toddville now, and perhaps just northeast of Robbins, a couple of spots that certainly the storm is rotating, and we could see tornadic development. In addition, very, very strong winds likely moving into the Hiawatha area and Marion very soon, as well as good portions of Cedar Rapids, all visible on that. And one more area to highlight, as we kind of have this big cluster of storms that we initially had this tornado warning issued for. It's back here west of Center Point. Just pretty close to the Urbana area. The initial rotation was up here. So numerous spots to watch right now, all clustered in northeastern Benton, northwestern Lynn, southern Buchanan, far southwestern Delaware County, where that tornado warning goes until 6 o'clock.
Yeah, officially until 6 o'clock. We've put one storm track on that as it moves to the County Home Road area, the one that's, again, moving along the Tuma Soccer Complex about 5:35, so it's not far away. Hundreds Ridge Golf Course also arriving, as we can see, about 5:40. That's kind of that rotating part of the storm, or one of the rotating parts of the storm that Corey had mentioned a little bit earlier.
I think we lost power to our Cedar Rapids City Cam as that lightning struck.
Wow.
Yeah, could you go back to that on Max 3, full screen perhaps? Just take a quick look at it. Yeah. There's a ton of lightning with this storm. So even outside of the other severe weather threats, you really want to be inside and away from windows because of how much lightning there is. And sorry, Joe, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no, that is an amazing picture right there that's just frozen in time with that lightning strike that occurred. Again, power will be coming in. We did have some reports, and I know meteorologist Hannah Messier, you were taking a look earlier at the power outage maps. What have you been seeing from that?
So many customers in Buchanan County are now out of power. So we're seeing reports of over 1,000 people out of power in Buchanan County. A power outage also reported in Black Hawk County, where over 1,000 people are out in Black Hawk County as well. Right now, not getting a lot of reports from Lynn County and the Cedar Rapids area, but right now it looks like Black Hawk and Buchanan counties all have power outages up there.
And you mentioned the lightning in the system. I've just pulled up lightning detection across the area, and you can certainly see that. Just immense amounts of lightning. 4,050 strikes just in that area that's kind of boxed in right now. So lots and lots of lightning, because that shows the energy in the storm as well as it continues to move through the area. So certainly keep that in mind. Meteorologist A.J. Rickman joins us as well. We have the entire First Alert Storm team on hand for this storm that's moving through. You've been taking a look at city cams, you've been watching radar. What have you seen, A.J.?
Well, kind of just what we've been talking about. A lot of really heavy rain. We've got a line that's formed, and I mean, we've been following it on pinpoint. A lot of lightning with it. We've had a lot of heavy wind on the Cedar Rapids. One of our city cams, let's see which one I'm looking at right now. One of them is showing pretty heavy rain coming down. But yeah, overall, heavy wind, heavy rain with these storms. And it looks like we do have a fresh tornado warning that has just been issued over Cedar Rapids and areas immediately to the west of it. It is for Cedar, Jones, and Lynn counties. It is in effect until 6:15, and that is a radar indicated rotation.
That could be some of the rotation you were looking at a little bit earlier, or is it something that's just farther back toward the west a little bit?
I'm going to assume it's the one that I was talking about toward the lead edge, because it's starting to outpace that bigger tornado warning box that was issued for the Urbana storm. So I think that's the Weather Service looking at that, as well as the potential for very strong winds.
The rotation capable of producing a storm located near Marion, moving east at 40 as well. So again, be in your safe spot. Cedar Rapids, this now does include the city of Cedar Rapids, Marion, Robbins, well as Springville, as we can see, Vernon View, Bertram, eventually over toward Martell as that storm moves in, Lisbon as well. Lynn Junction, you're on the far western portion of that box. That's a tornado warning that continues until 6:15. So again, that's until 6:15. Also reportedly moving around 40 miles per hour. So let's go ahead and we'll dismiss the flash flood warning. We'll take a look at that in just a second. Let's go ahead and pinpoint the area right now. And as Corey takes a look at rotation, we'll get that as well. But we'll just choose the Marion area, kind of that little indentation that you're seeing, and project it out about the next 20 minutes.
We do have another spotter report. So that same spotter in Urbana reported a tornado on the ground southeast of Urbana, now headed into Lynn County.
Marion City Park, about 5:36. The City of Marion, about 5:51. Grantwood Trail at 5:46. Grantwood Trail about 5:51. And Martell around 5:54. That, again, would be the current movement on that storm as it moves off to the east and southeast at about 40 miles per hour. That area that Hannah mentioned, also under that tornado warning for a potential tornado. Still until 6 o'clock. You should still be in your safe area. And we're also seeing that area right now, Walker Center Point down toward Shellsburg, over to El Burnett, back to Vinton in a blue box. That is a flash flood warning in effect for heavier amounts of rain that could certainly cause some flash flooding in the area as well. So definitely some very strong storms moving through, not unexpected as these storms have been evolved and moved, but you can see that entire line, and we'll just widen it out for you and kind of let it move, pull the boxes off that explain the warning. As you can see, it extends from southern areas of Clayton County, now moving back through Delaware County, is just beginning to move into Dubuque County, and then that line extends farther back toward the south as well and off toward the west, just beginning to enter northern areas of Poweshiek County, still has to move southern Benton, areas of Keokuk, Washington, as well as Cedar. You're starting to see just a little bit of influence. Jones as well, same story. Johnson County as well, kind of waiting for those storms to move in. It'll be very interesting to watch to see what it's going to be like as those storms move through, because they will likely strengthen in terms of wind as they move farther down toward the south and east.
Take a look at Max 2 and highlight the areas of rotation that are responsible for these tornado warnings. Latest scan from the National Weather Service there includes that area in Lynn County that is of particular interest, just west of Springville. I'll put one loop on here to show you kind of where it's moving. It's been tracking mostly to the east at this point, and that is going to take it very near the Springville area here very, very shortly. So if you live in areas of Lynn County north of Highway 151, from east of Highway 13 toward Springville, toward Whittier, toward Viola, and toward Fairview, which crosses the county line into Jones County, please do seek shelter now. That's where this area of rotation potentially producing tornadic activity would be located as it passes toward the east. So it would include basically anywhere that we can see inside this area where it would be tracking soon as that moves through. Now, as meteorologist Hannah Messier pointed out earlier, there's another area of rotation back to the northwest. That that tornado warning continues for portions of Lynn County. Where we're looking here would be most likely this area near Walker. There's another area of potentially rotating winds near Center Point as stronger winds come in from the west. These are all moving to the east too. And it's that back line that's really starting to catch up with that lead cell. And it's going to take a little bit of time for it to sort out what exactly is going on in terms of what will be the predominant threat, whether we have damaging winds starting to become a bit more likely, which I believe is probably going to be the outcome here as those cells merge. But at this point, we're keeping an eye on the rotational winds because of that threat for a tornado, especially as we look, again, west of the Springville area, another area of rotation that really needs to be treated with respect as we head toward eastern portions of Lynn County. Most of the Cedar Rapids metro, I would advise the potential for areas of rotation to spring up along what is a surging area of wind that's continued to move through. Pinpoint that area too. There's been a little bit of messy data coming in with this, but those stronger winds still coming in between Hiawatha, Marion, the north half of Cedar Rapids, and some quick spin-ups could happen there. That's mostly what we've seen so far, at least based on the reports that we've gotten. Relatively quick spin-ups spin ups rather, as these storms move through.
We did put a storm track on that area of rotation that Corey was mentioning. That puts it in Springville about 548, Viola around 553, Fairview at 557, Anamosa at 601, as well as the Wapsiana Park, Morley at 604, Amber about 609, and Olin about 612. Again, that's in current movement with that tornado warning that does include portions of Cedar, Jones, Lynn, as well as farther back, as we can see, still including the northern portion of Lynn County as well. So a couple of warnings out there, and we continue to watch that entire line really be warned as it is continuing to kind of come together and slowly evolve into what will be a damaging wind line as those storms move through. We did have one report come in. You had mentioned County Home Road earlier, Corey, 60 to 70 mile an hour winds that coming in as well. So again, as expected, those winds now starting to pick up a little bit. We're seeing the 60 to 70 mile an hour reports. As we talked about earlier, we could see winds in these storms in excess of 80 miles an hour. When we get that strong, that is a very damaging wind. So certainly something that we're going to watch very carefully. As far as watching the storms themselves, they're moving through at a more rapid pace, now averaging right around, at times, probably 40 miles per hour. As that continues to move through. So that's going to move through fairly rapidly once they move through. But as they are in the area, they are intense. You can see that in our Cedar Rapids City Cam right now with some of the, again, reduced visibilities. That's our downtown City Cam that we're looking at right now. Maybe we could take a look at our Coralville City Cam and spin that off to the north as well. I'd love to take a look at as the storms are moving in, or our North Liberty City Cam as well. Another great way. And if we want to point Coralville off toward the north, we can do that and take a look and see. Again, an area that has been untouched but will not be untouched. That entire line will be pushing across eastern Iowa as we move through the next several hours, probably out of the TV9 viewing area by 8 or 9 o'clock with the current movement on those cells and expected intensification of the cells, but also a faster movement is also certainly possible as that whole line continues to push through the area. Very much expected across eastern Iowa. As of right now, I've had no reports of any damage reports across eastern Iowa. How do the power outages look so far in eastern Iowa? Anything that we're seeing?
Mainly, again, in Buchanan County, still about 1,500 people with out of power in Buchanan County. 86 in terms of wind reports, we've gotten 86 mile per hour winds reported in Aurora, that's in Buchanan County. Edgewood Fire reported 55 mile per hour wind gusts, and 60 mile per hour winds were recorded west of New Vienna.
AJ, you've been taking a look at the storm as well. Anything you're noticing, the ingredients there, what's headed our way?
Yes, the big thing I've picked up on is, and I'm sure everybody's picked up on it if in terms of energy, if you've walked outside over the last couple of days, you've noticed it's hot, it's sticky, it's muggy. That has been energy that these storms have been feeding off of all afternoon, and there is just an insane amount of energy south of these storms, and that's, of course, where they're tracking. So as we go through the afternoon, these storms aren't going to be slowing down any. We'll be continuing to see this line push to the southeast, and as it pushes to the southeast, it'll be going into more of that warm, muggy air, and that's just going to continue to feed these storms as they continue to grow into what appears to be a pretty well organized line of storms, and we'll continue to watch that push to the southeast as we go through the afternoon. But like I said, lots of warm, moist air that we felt over the last couple days, and today it's going to be the primary source for what's feeding these storms and keeping them alive, and don't think they're going to be slowing down anytime soon as we go through the afternoon and evening.
And now we have reports of 80-plus mile-an-hour winds from cells near the New Vienna area. There will be a new warning that will be coming out that will take care of portions of Delaware and Dubuque counties. That will be for 80-plus mile-an-hour winds. There was a report of an 86-mile-an-hour gust earlier. So, again,